Hello, and today we're going to continue with my English banknotes folder, but this time the modern banknotes. I just about remember these old 50s. When I started work, it was quite rare to receive one of these. Obviously, £50 today is worth far less than it was back then in the 80s. This one features Christopher Wren on the back. Quite a large size note. You would have needed a large wallet to carry these around. Quite a pleasant design, even if they are a little bit drab with the brown colours, sort of greeny brown, olivey colour. They were replaced with these red notes. These have various extra security features like foil patches on them and foil strips going through the centres. They were replaced, I'll just show you the back of them, that's a Hublon, and they were replaced with these, which are a little bit more geometric in design. And finally onto the plastic, which is the current note that we're using. I'll show you the reverses. That's James Watt and somebody else, can't remember off the top of my head, and that's Turing, who helped crack the ciphers, the German codes during the Second World War. The goal was always fooled this £20 note that had a very short run before the cashier changed, so that's quite hard to get hold of note. As I was saying, the goal was always to get each denomination of note with each cashier, but as time's gone by, I've noticed that there's various different varieties. Things, particularly with the serial numbers, the serial number changes often with the letter following or preceding the numbers, and there's various little changes, like for instance on this note the £20 note becomes more colourful, and that was one where it was letter number and turned into number letter. This is a curiosity as well, banknote, where the printing is done in multiple layers, and there's one layer of printing missing, which means the Queen appears on a rather plain background. The other side of this note is perfectly normal, but as you see, there's no St George and the Dragon behind the Queen. And I'm not a big fan of certificated notes, but that's how it was when I bought it, so I see no reason to crack it out of the plastic. And then we're on to the even more modern notes. Most of these notes I collected out of circulation. I just pulled them out of my pocket. It's always nice when you're paying the face value for these notes. One change here is that the denomination at the top right corner used to be a crown, but they realised that it's better to have that as a denomination, makes it clearer. And on the other side of the note, the £20 denomination was quite faint when they started printing these, as you see. Not much contrast there. They updated that and made it easier to read. So they're the kind of varieties that I've added to my collection. The back has Michael Faraday, and we have some different serial numbers there. We've got a change of cashier. DA80 was the first, I think, with Lowther. Then Lowther changes the notes into this new design, which features Edward Elgar on the back. famous composer. Excellent moustache. And then we go to a more geometric design, which is in keeping with the £50 note of that period. And finally, that's Adam Smith. I've read some of his work, quite a good author. And now you have the plastic note, which is currently in circulation. Only got one cashier signature for this so far. The £10 note was introduced before the cashier changed, so there's 2 cashier signatures possible for that one. And we go back to the £10 notes of the 60s. And again, larger than a modern note. They got a nice design on the back, line with the key to the Bank of England, but quite stylistic. And another printing error where, as you see, it's called a dry ink error. The ink hasn't come out, and that's on a £10 note which features Nightingale on the back. Nightingale, Florence Nightingale, obviously a famous nurse. And various different signatures, and some things like the introduction of the foil strip through the centre of the note, and several Somerset versions of this note with different serial number prefixes, etc. Then we move on to the new 10, which also had a crown at the top right when it was first introduced. Just show you Nightingale. There she is. And that was replaced by this one. I think, is that Darwin? Might be Charles Darwin on the back of it. Now we also have some funny little things. We have the addition of a copyright. That's due to an artist who used to reproduce the notes in pencil. They weren't meant as counterfeits, they were novelty items, and there was a big case against him, and they introduced the copyright here. But you also have a change of wording. It says Governor and the Company of the Bank of England. They end up taking out the, so it just becomes Company and Company rather than and the company. So as you see there, the Governor and the Company of the bank becomes Governor and Company of the bank. So that's another little variant. That's Darwin there with the hummingbird. The one above him, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. And that's the new £10 note in plastic. No one much likes the plastic notes. I used polymer notes in Australia, and they seem to be much better than the British variety. If you put a crease in these, it's pretty hard to get rid of the crease. They won't lay flat on a table, and they stick together as well. And these are probably my favourite design, with the line and the key. As you see, they changed the denomination there. One had it filled in black and the other one's in white. These were the transition between using white notes and having printed £5 notes. Then they replaced those with the portrait notes, so called because they had the portrait of the Queen. And as you see, they same cashier, different system of numbering. That's the reverse. And then on to the more modern type of note. And again, we have a printing error. It should be the Duke of Wellington, but he's not there. And another printing error, the missing signature, which is Somerset variety. They produce quite a few without that signature. It's a note that I wanted in my collection. I bought it from auction. I didn't realise it was quite as creased as it is, but it still fills a hole. And then onto the more modern type. Again, faint denomination gets replaced with a much clearer denomination, and that had the crown again replaced with a denomination sign. And then a massive error by the bank. They put these foils on, but they put that's the reverse there. George Stephenson, maker of the rocket, the train. They put these foils on, and it meant that the serial number could rub off because it was printed onto a shiny surface rather than the paper. And that's finally the plastic banknotes that we're using at the moment, and I'm waiting for one to come along with the current signature on it. Anyway, thanks for watching.